Alrighty, hello. Today I'm going to be going over how to create a case. So, last video was on how to break down and understand a resolution, and this is going to be on how to actually begin creating a case. So I'm going with a very old topic. This is the first case that I had ever wrote. And the resolution was the United States government should impose price controls in the pharmaceutical industry. So, looking at this case, all right, it is rough. You will notice that it is very poorly organized. You will notice that it doesn't really have very much in terms of substance. And I'm going to go over the problems with this and how to fix it. So naturally, what you're going to do when you write a case is you're going to, what you're going to do when you find a case, or when you write a case, you are going to find evidence, and you are going to create an argument. Now, you have to create an argument around the resolution and the side you are arguing. That's given. But you have to create sub-arguments a part of that, because the pharmaceutical industry and all the arguments associated with it, it's a very broad topic, way too broad to completely cover in 4 minutes. So you have to break it down into smaller categories, which are contentions. I believe I've gone over this. But just in case if I haven't, or just in case if you are completely unaware of what contentions are, they are simply an argument of the case. So it is any claim that you make. So it's like any arguable claim, not any arguable claim. It's it's any subjective argument that you make. That's a better definition. Any subjective argument. Okay, so when doing contentions, it's incredibly important to make sure that your contentions are actually, one, relevant. Okay, so make sure your contentions are relevant. And two, make sure they are important. So looking at this case that I'm going to pull up in just a second, you will notice that I don't have any structure, and as a result, this case will be very weak. It has the evidence, and it has the argument attached to it, but it doesn't have the organization, and as a result, the case is lacking. So let's take a gander. So, looking at the pro outline, okay, for the United States government should impose price controls in the pharmaceutical industry. All right. So we have an introduction. This is completely worthless. You don't want an introduction, okay? Instead, what I needed to do is I would need to define my terms. I would need to offer framework, things that I did not do and things that actually did severely cost. So the United States should impose price controls on pharmaceuticals to make them more affordable and accessible to people with severe illnesses. This is kind of a framework, but it doesn't really do, it doesn't. This is a very bad framework, I guess is the best way to put it. It doesn't tell the judge how to weigh the round. It doesn't offer any critique. It just says this is what's going to happen. So let's actually look at the case. So we have claim, all right. So this is to back up the introduction and resolution, I guess. The pharmaceutical industry is currently unjustly dictating the medicinal market. With minimal competition, these companies are able to increase prices as high as they want without many repercussions. This is incredibly bad as people with illnesses are being forced to pile debt simply to be able to continue living. This is what we call a claim. There is no warrant attached to it. There is no evidence attached to it. This is considered completely unsubstantiated and is very easy to contest, simply because there is actually no evidence to support this. Pharmaceutical prices, according to a report made by Harvard Medical, all right, we have our first source, in the United States are 3 times more than any other developed nation. All right, now we have an arguable claim. So what we would do is, for this first contention, if I can actually edit this, I cannot. But what I would do is I would name this contention, I would name it unsustainable pharmaceutical price, like unreasonable pharmaceutical prices. Simply because that's what I'm talking about. That is this claim. Throughout this entire contention, what's going to happen is we are going to see, we're going to see, me talking about pharmaceutical prices. Alright, so T1 International released a chart on the insulin prices across different nations, and the US is the most expensive country with prices as high as $13.47 per milliliter of insulin compared to the second most of $6.95 from Chile. All right, here we have another arguable claim. This is going to be an impact, or well, this isn't really much of an impact, but this is just evidence. All right, so I am evidencing what should be my framework. And that's how you kind of create a case. You need your impacts, your warrants, your claims, all to kind of coincide together with your framework. You need everything to be intertwined. That's how you make a good case. Because what happens is you will always have something to fall back on. Everything will kind of rely on itself. This was a very bad case simply because it didn't have the structure. I didn't have a concept of what a warrant was. Like I said, this was the very first case I wrote, so I didn't know what framework was. I didn't know what a contention was. I had no concept. I walked into debate with being the first debater in on my team. Okay, nobody before me, nobody after me as of yet. And I was completely off the rip. I had no help going into it. Everybody was clueless. And this is just a matter of, organizing a case. So, and that's exactly what I'm here to do. I'm here to help you avoid the mistakes that I made. So we're going through this, also from T1 International. Alright, so we're referencing, again, so we have more evidence. One bottle of Humalog insulin costs $435 in the United States and $69 in Chile. Okay, that's pretty monumental. Alright, that's an impact. Simply because, wow, this is completely unreasonable, right? Like, any judge who understands this is going to say, wow, okay, so that is a pretty significant effect on the lives of others, which means that, I should maybe favor the pro side of the resolution. This is monumental as Chile is a much poorer country with much less access to medicine, okay? That is another impact. Well, this is actually a warrant, because I am justifying how this sentence attaches to my evidence my claim that I just made. As a matter of fact, the GDP difference between the two countries is over $16 trillion, and it is still easier for this Chileans to get this medicine. This is simply unacceptable. Cancer, the highest leading killer in North America, costs the most to cure in the United States. Chemotherapy costs roughly $10,000 per month, according to usnews.com. Okay, so a lot of people with usnews.com. So I don't know if I've already done this, but if you need to check the validity of a source, media bias fact check. Okay? It is this website, media bias fact check. You will look at US News, US News World Report. Okay, it has a left center bias. As long as it's not extreme left or extreme right, you should be fine. Okay, what you're mainly focusing on is the factual reporting aspect. Okay, when you do debate cases, you're going to see arguments from the right side, you're going to see arguments from the left side. That doesn't matter. Your job here is not to play politics. Your job here is to provide an argument. So you're not caring about what kind of affiliation, what kind of ideology these people have. You just care that they're telling you what should be factual information. Okay, and so people will say, oh, .com websites, like, this always makes me angry, but people say .com websites aren't credible because they're .com, as if that matters. Okay, there are far more credible .com websites than there are credible .net and .gov websites and .orgs. So all you have to do is just, if a source is in question of its validity, just go to Media Bias Fact Check, put it in, check its factual reporting. If it's mixed factual reporting, don't do it. All right, only report or only source a website if it's mostly factual or higher. Okay, so just getting that out of the way. Treatment also, according to ncbi.gov, government website, don't really need to check the validity, but even then, still doesn't help. So NCBI. High factual reporting. See, simple. So I know this is a very this is a very credible claim. So, even in developed countries where people can be financially challenged, it is still easier to afford treatment than in the U.S. The government has been very lenient about regulating these companies. However, when you are put in financial turmoil simply because you caught a disease, there needs to be changes. Okay, in 2017, Shane Patrick Boyle died from a lack of insulin. It got so expensive he was forced to make a GoFundMe campaign to keep himself alive. He was $50 short and died. Boyle and thousands of others went through similar situations and ended up dying because the medication was too expensive to keep buying. Nowhere else in the world is medicine so difficult to afford, and the worst irony is there's plenty of medicine to supply to the people who need it. The government needs to pass bills that limit the cost of this medicine so that anyone who needs kids that can access it regardless of their financial status. In 2002, the cost for a vial of insulin cost roughly $40. In 2013, it cost up to $130. It has continued to rise. According to a Yale study, people who earned under $100,000 per month per year were more likely to cut down on insulin and put their own health at dire risk simply because it was getting too expensive both the UK. And so pretty much, like, this is the first contention, and this is just going to continue arguing mainly insulin prices. But essentially, like, without any kind of structure, it still does make sense because you're just writing an essay. You're writing an argumentative essay, and what's going to happen is you're going to compare it to somebody else's argumentative essay. And so I'm not going to bother going over this. I'm not going to bother going over this argument. I'll go over this in a second. Alright, so I didn't really do much here. 10 minutes of just kind of rambling, couple bit of advice. Alright, so what I'm gonna do, because this is completely like off the script, I'm doing all these videos 100% impromptu. So what we're gonna do is I'm going to actually show you how to do this research. So what you do is what I usually do, and what most people do, is you just take the resolution, pop it in the Google search. Alright, so boom, drugcostfacts.org. Alright, now what we're going to do is we're going to read through this. Okay, wow, that was a good read. Okay, so now what we're going to do is, this is one source. We are going to save this source, so we're going to copy paste it into our document. Boop, copy paste. Okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to look at a new website. So Debate Us. Actually, I believe I never used this website, but I'm pretty sure Debate Us is a very good website for public forum. Yeah, this is formerly Millennial Speech and Debate. So you can go to Debate Us. I never did this because I did not realize it existed until it was pretty much over. But you can find the new public forum topic. It'll give you some arguments to run across, and then you just research those arguments. So for example, when looking at this one, you know, you get several different arguments. You get to read it up. Wow, that's a good read. Now let's say I find something. What companies to innovate life-saving drugs. Okay, now I can start reading up these and create more and more arguments. What you're going to do is you're just writing an essay. So you're going to fluff. Okay, so looking through this. All right, let's see how much is fluff. Fluff. Okay. Now we're getting directly into the first claim. Okay. Another claim. Fluff. Claim. This is fluff. See, like, so it's like about 50% just trying to waste time and kind of connecting the dots, and then the other 50% is actually making claims and supporting your own argument. You don't want to overload in evidence because, well, that's just not fun to hear. You're trying to convince the judge you're right, and that's not going to happen if you have so much evidence that it's not even funny. So you have to have that fluff, and you have to be able to do that, which is why a first speaker needs to be a good writer. You have to be able to formulate an essay. You're not writing a speech, you're writing an essay, and you're trying to argue a certain topic with that essay, and you're going to find evidence to do so, and you are going to contest somebody else's essay, which is going to give a different opinion. And that's all it is. You would research the same as you do, and you will write it the same as you will. There's obviously a few, like technical things you have to do, such as, analyzing the resolution, creating framework, making contentions. But realistically, it's just writing an essay. And that's all you really need to learn how to do. If you need to figure out how to write an argumentative essay, look that up from a separate source, because I am not going to do a full lesson on how to write an argumentative essay, because I'm not an English teacher. I'm a very bad debate instructor. That's going to be it for this one.